So there's one aspect to this Io Adebri Italian press conference that no one is talking about. The journalist wants to make a point about political correctness being wrong, and the journalist directs the question to these two. I want to hear what white man and legendary white woman have to say about Me Too and BLM. Don't care what the black woman has to say about BLM. It's quite awkward to ask a question like that in a press conference and say this question is for two of you and not for the other person who clearly is relevant to answering the question. So, why is the journalist interested in these white people's perspectives and not in the black person's perspective? I think I know. This is a sort of microaggression that many of us have experienced, especially in workplace situations. If it's something around blackness, a lot of white people will feel like we don't need to ask the black people what they feel because we know what they're going to say. Also, because they put a higher value in the opinions delivered and held by white people. What really matters is what white people think about these issues, not what black people think. That's what the journalist is saying. But a lot of us have had that moment where white people make it clear we know what you're going to say, or we don't care what you're going to say. We don't respect your opinion. So why don't you not even comment? The journalist has fired back on Instagram saying she has been wrongfully accused of racism. She says, in my view, the real racists are those who see racism everywhere and want to muzzle journalism. She explains that she's not racist. She's interviewed people of all ethnicities. Oh, she does not, in her tidy and pathetic Instagram post, explain why she left Io Adebri out the question in the beginning, causing the problem. So there's one aspect to this Io Adebri Italian press conference.
Well, he is 100% correct about the reporter. I saw that, and it is what he said it is. Welcome to another episode of Let It Be Known. Trying to tamp down a little bit of the drama, but heck, bring the drama. Nia, what's up?
Peace and love, everybody. As Stacey said, I'm Nielle. Welcome to Let It Be Known. And yeah, that was an interesting video. Of course, that's a headline trending in Black news, and we have some more headlines, including important news about Obamacare. We got news on Kamala Harris, and lots of Emmy news today, Stacey. And speaking of Hollywood, that video was all about a press junket that was held. And just a really bizarre moment. One of many that, Black people are experiencing in this new Trump world.
Well, to be fair, we've been experiencing that type of stuff forever. But it's heightened and more intense now, and folks are freer. They feel freer to show their racism. And how dare she talk about in her post she's not, if people accuse her of racism, this blah blah blah. And you know what? Your racism would not allow you to ask her the question. Let's just deal with the issue, and the fact is, as a journalist, the most appropriate person to ask that question of would have been her, right? And you just totally ignored her, and she, and you see her face. It's like, come on. But journalism today, for the most part, especially now, and more so over the last 8-9 months, is bought and paid for.
Yeah. And she could just acknowledge, her mistake, maybe as a foreigner and those issues that are here, because she was a foreign journalist, right? So maybe, she, misread some things. So I mean, just acknowledge, I made a mistake. That could have been seen as racist. Being a foreigner, that question is an American question. Me Too comes from America. So does the Black Lives Matter movement. And so maybe in her country, she had a reason to ask that question. But now that it's been pointing out that what she did was racist, acknowledge it, apologize, and move on. My pastor calls it sometimes, I don't know if it was ignorant or she was innocently ignorant. Could be either or. She's a foreigner. I give her the benefit of the doubt.
Neo throwing the benefit of the doubt to the white woman. RNG is not going to tolerate that at all. You can't give the white women the benefit of the doubt. It's impossible. Listen, I'm saying it again, Coach Patterson. I need the schedule, Coach Patterson. Good morning, folks. Again, it's not such a great morning overall. The Supreme Court has simply said that racial profiling is legal. I mean, that's what it comes down to. They ruled, they cleared the path for unchecked executive power by allowing this time roving immigration patrols in Los Angeles that target people for nothing more than how they look, the language they speak, or the jobs they work. Justice Sonia Sotomayor warned that, quote, we should not have to live in a country where the government can seize anyone who looks Latino, speaks Spanish, and appears to work a low-wage job. But the court's Trump majority, the Trump-bought majority, brushed aside the Constitution's promise of protection against unlawful searches, effectively giving the administration a green light to erode civil liberties, and push America further toward dictatorship. Niel, we couldn't help but see that the Supreme Court was going to side with Trump.
Yeah. At this point in the game, it's up to the people. So if nobody got mad about what happened yesterday, then we deserve what we get. At this point now, we know what Donald Trump and his clan are capable of. And if we don't care, why should they? There was a time in this country where that would be unacceptable. People would get water hosed down. They'd start marching. They start protesting. And there are people that are out there doing it. Shout out to 5150, movements like Black Lives Matter, movements like For the People. So it is happening, but it is not happening enough in a concentrated matter. So if the American people decide that this is not important to them, then we get what we deserve at this point.
Austin says the Reverend Niel has spoken.
I mean, I'm just saying, if we don't care, why should they? And the only reason why they're getting away with it is because not enough of us are pissed off about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you don't think people are pissed off.
I mean, not enough to where it's going to make a difference. I mean, look at what how many people, how many protests, how many people did you see go stand in front of the Supreme Court yesterday?
But isn't it a climate now, especially the Supreme Court's in Washington, D.C., where it's totally under military control? But isn't there a certain idea now that, what can we do at this point? People are exhausted. Is that part of it?
Who's exhausted? I mean, yeah, there are some people who should be exhausted. There are a lot of people who
certainly mentally. Yeah.
There are a lot of people who are exhausted because they have been on the front line. Mm-hmm. Not enough people. I mean, there are more people excited about the NFL kicking off this past weekend than they are about what that Trump clan is doing. And that is just the reality of the situation. But enough people got up, went and really said enough is enough. Impact would be made. Not enough people care. More people care about what's happening with Young Thug, Cardi B, than they are about the Supreme Court ruling on racial profiling. There would be a time in this country in the past that would be totally unacceptable. Racial profiling.
But you're talking about unacceptable to Black people, right?
To people
it would be
of
Black
color.
People, right? No, they would be the ones.
Color.
Okay,
people of color.
They would
minorities.
So let me do this, Niel. Let me break down what I'm saying here. So, like you said, the water holes and everything. I'm just thinking about black people. I'm thinking about how black people were protesting and attacked with the
Mhm.
dogs and all that stuff. And then you had also mentioned that you know, yeah, some people are they're tired or whatever. What I'm saying is, and you're saying that not all people would rather celebrate the NFL opening. Are we specifically talking about more black people should be out there? Or are we saying more other people should be out there? I want to paint the real picture here.
Well, the ruling yesterday was about racial profiling, particularly against brown people.
Hmm.
But when it
This is going to
happens to
affect black
brown
people,
people,
sure.
yeah, so that's my point.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm saying to you, and you've acknowledged this about black folks, especially black women, they chilling right now. They're trying to breathe. They're trying to, they just
Well, I
take
said we're
off.
doing both. I said we're doing both. We're doing
Okay.
both. Yeah.
But I'm saying, I propose that black people in particular and black women specifically are beat up, tired, and they feel like they gotta feel like, well, somebody else needs to step up. No?
I mean, all I'm saying is, like I said, until enough people respond to what this Trump clan is doing, then we deserve what happens to us.
Okay. I was just trying to give us a big picture here because I think that there's a faction of people who feel like, you know what, this is not our fault. And the more we fight ourselves, the more we lose ourselves. Roland Martin yesterday was talking about defunding of Black America, and he's totally right. And we have nobody fighting for us, and in this moment, we certainly seem to need somebody fighting for us.
But we've always fought for ourselves. So I don't understand what you mean by we need somebody fighting for us. We've always fought for ourselves. So
Right.
who are we looking for to fight for us?
Somebody who can change things, somebody who has power. We don't have any power, obviously.
Well, black folks ain't never had no power. They didn't have no power in the civil rights movement, but they
Well, that
went to
no,
the power.
they did have some power. I'm telling you, Andrew Young explained that to me very, very precisely. The power that they wielded, and they were able to get things done because they had that type of power.
Oh, exactly. But because they fought, because they said enough is enough, which goes back to my original statement. Until we decide that enough is enough, we're not really, we don't, enough people don't care right now. When you talk about Andrew Young, yeah, all the black people was like, majority of the black people was like, enough is enough. We sick and tired of being sick and tired. They was marching, they was out there. They were pushing against the system. They were working within the system and they were working outside of the system. They was in the White House, even though still they wasn't allowed. They was at, they were protesting on a state and local level. That's what I'm saying. Until enough people, Fannie Lou Hamer, sick and tired of being sick and tired. I mean, there was a time in this country where racial profiling, that would be unacceptable. I mean, you had riots break out because of racial profiling and black men being subject to police brutality or not being able. We just honored Mr. McNeil yesterday for sitting at that lunch counter. There's not enough. So going back to my original statement, until enough people say enough is enough, until more people start voting, until more people start, saying this is my issue, so yeah, we're boots on the, black women are boots on the ground. We're having fun, but we're also participating as well. We laugh and say, but yeah, I mean, we're having fun doing it. Like, you find your joy in the midst of all of this. So to my original statement, yeah, until enough people say enough is enough, we're going to continue to have these things happen. It's not up to, we can't blame Trump. Let's stop blaming him. It's up to us now.
Well, I disagree with that part. You listen. It's not just Trump. It's Trump and the Heritage Foundation. I disagree a little bit there, Neil.
Well,
I
I
think
mean,
you're on
I
the right
say
track.
The Trump clan administration. I mean,
Hmm.
I say that all the time. It's the
Hmm.
Trump. Yeah.
And the difference, and I think maybe this is part of what you're saying too. The difference between now and the civil rights movement, the Jim Crow era, is that Black folks, for the most part, I would say a good 90% or more Black folks stuck together. They looked out for each other. We don't have that. Everybody's for themselves for the most part. I mean, and I'm talking about even the organizations that we've relied on, the NAACP, Urban League. Everybody's, you got the what you call the ones that took the money from Target, the National Baptist Convention, and then you got the other Baptists or other denominations are mad at them because they went out on their own. I mean that's just one example, but they're not together. Black folks are not together like they were back then. Is that accurate?
I mean, it all goes back to my statement.
That's what I'm saying.
Until we decide to come together and respond, we're gonna have this problem. So whether this group is doing that or whatever the situation is, until we decide to get back to our roots, at the end of the day, it's our problem. I don't blame Trump and his clan anymore. We need to start responding to this.
All right. She doesn't blame Trump clan and for
I mean,
this part.
they've been doing no for at this point, 6 months in. I mean,
9 months in.
What more do you need to know?
Well, it's about the fact, again, nobody seemed to have made a strategy whatsoever, and that includes the Black press. Nobody made a strategy. Nobody. Here we are reacting instead of being proactive. I said that from day zero. And I think that's the biggest problem, that whether it's the NAACP, whether it's the Urban League, whether it's the Black press, whether it's whomever, and that includes Roland Martin, who talks a lot about, Black media. And Roland, you got to start including the Black press. We do exist, and we exist. But there was no strategy whatsoever. And we knew this stuff was coming. We knew it was coming. What did we think? He was bluffing? We thought the Heritage Foundation was bluffing. We thought Project 2025 was a joke. And nobody put a real plan in action. It was all reactionary, and it still is reactionary. I don't see anybody coming out with, and early on it was talk, well, we don't know what they're doing in the basement. We don't know what they're doing behind the scenes. They're quietly, they got to keep it quiet. That's out the window. Trump is not keeping what he's doing quiet. Project 2025 wasn't quiet. It was out in the front. So that is the fundamental problem there. And now you got everyday people who are not going out there protesting, who are not going out because they feel like they got nobody who's going to have their back. The Democrats have jumped ship. Hakeem is in some sort of bunker, it seems, right? So I understand what you're saying.
No. But I mean, every day you can come here and you could talk about what this person's not doing, what that person's not doing. But where's your list of what people are doing? Are you saying that nobody's doing anything?
Nobody show me one organization or individual who strategized before this. That didn't happen. They now, like you said, 50.
I mean, I'm saying, you keep talking about, what everybody's not doing. What about what people are doing?
Yeah, now see but I agree with you. What I'm saying is the strategy wasn't there. They have reacted some and they've responded when really
everybody should have just voted.
You can make that argument. But I think that those who did, you hearing regret from a large portion of them, and it's too late for that. And once again, I don't believe that, for those who did vote, I don't believe that the election came out, the results that they gave us was not the results that actually happened. I really don't believe that. I said that from day one too. So where does that put you, right? He's not going to allow for another election.
Well, I go
But
back to my original statement. Until enough people decide that enough is enough, this Trump clan will continue to racial profile, to take away our health care, to take away our benefits, to make it harder for us to travel, take away, everything that, this people of color have made strides to make available for us. They'll just continue to take it away. So we can sit up here and we can talk on a soapbox. We can blame Hakeem Jeffries. We can blame the Black church. We can blame the NAACP and talk about it. But until the people decide enough is enough, then we're going to stand this problem.
well, folks, it's certainly a
And
great
I'm not just talking
conversation.
about Black people either. It's going to take more than us. I mean, come on, like we're less than
That's what I was
10%.
asking for. We could have cut out 10 minutes of this conversation.
No, that's not true because I've said it all along, Stacey. I mean, I've said it's easy to sit here and talk about it, but unless we're going to be a part of the solution, then yeah, I said that from the get-go. It's going to take the people to get up. You think I was just talking about Black people?
But that's why I was trying to break it down for you, Neil. Be specific.
I was.
I think
I said it's more than just us. I said that already.
Okay. All right. I missed it. I'm sorry. Speaking of Mr. President, Donald Trump has now been ordered to pay E. Jean Carroll more than $83 million for defaming her after she accused him of sexual assault, with the federal appeals court rejecting his claim that presidential immunity shields him. This decision comes on top of another $5 million verdict already upheld. E. Jean Carroll has yet to see a penny, but the ruling makes clear that no president, past or present, has the right to use the power of office to smear victims and escape accountability, especially when we're talking sexual assault.
Well, that's good.
Well, I think the bigger picture for us, and you're right, that's kind of my reaction too. Good for her. But the bigger picture, once again, it's not new. It's not breaking news in any way, that this is who you have in office. This is who you have as the so-called leader of the free world. A civil jury twice, a judge, and an appeals court, judges all agree that there is someone who is liable for sexual assault, and he's the president of the United States of America. And that's really the bottom line there.
Yeah, that is this is what we have, and it just goes back to what I say. When we've had enough, then maybe, we will start resisting and making some change. Enough people, so to say. Orange G says, Neil, nobody cared about the loss of affirmative action or the loss of DEI. Exactly, Orange G. That's what I'm saying. Until we start caring enough, I'm past Donald Trump. I'm past his clan. It's up to us now. It's up to us. And I think that our ancestors gave us a blueprint, and it's time for us to get back to the basics. I mean, we've lost all their strides. It's our fault. We've lost it because we took it for granted. And so it's not even about Donald Trump and the Klan anymore. It's like, what are we going to do? Are we going to allow them to racial profile us, or are we going to stand up? Because there are enough legacy organizations to have our back. There are the NAACP, the Urban Leagues, Black Lives Matter, 5150. What is it? We the People. There are organizations that are out there for us. The people just have to get involved.
Okay.
Dr. Joni says, I wonder what on earth, for example, the people of LA are going to do when masked armed goons, okayed by MAGA government, are going to do, or what all of us are supposed to do when they are allowed via that Supreme Court. Exactly. Like, what we gonna do? What we gonna do, LA?
Well, let me tell you. Well, never mind. Never mind. I'll leave it at what you said. because I think that's what's need to be said. I think folks are going to have to they got to look into them in their mirrors and figure out what they're going to do, and that's the bottom line. But as you said, there are organizations, 5051, Black Lives Matter, Grassroots. Those are only two. The other ones, whatever. But those are only two that
Well,
I feel like.
yeah, I disagree with that. I mean,
Yeah.
NAACP, Derek Johnson,
Mhm.
and his team are over there are doing what they can. They suing. You know, I don't have the financial resources to go and sue the government, but thank God they do. That's what I'm saying. It's not just, it's an ecosystem. It's the ecosystem of how things work. And it takes that whole African proverb, it takes a village. It does. So yeah, Black Lives Matter, Grassroots, they are an abolitionist organization. They don't want no police. You know what I'm saying? They're needed. Okay. Then you have the 5150s. That's where the white allies, they're leading that movement. We need them. Okay. We need the NAACP to be suing everybody. It's an ecosystem. It's not just one isolated group. We need the Black church. They're important. They're essential. So, and then that you have the Black Church Pact, which is an organization of all of the denominations, the Church of God in Christ, the Baptists, the CMEs, the
What are they
AMEs,
doing?
all of the Black Church Pact.
Yeah, what are they doing?
They are mobilizing. They are mobilizing their church members. Jamal Bryant is a part of that, which means what? That's getting the target information out to all of the Black churches. So to be dismissive of
No,
all,
I'm asking. I asked that question for not for my edification, just for people.
I wasn't talking about you. I wasn't.
Okay.
I wasn't. I'm just saying it takes an ecosystem. So like to just be, dismissive or this person's not doing it. I mean, I see the work that people are doing.
Right. Okay. Well, folks, Neil, as Austin said, Reverend Neil, she's had us say, but too many of our families are losing homes, land, and businesses, not because we didn't earn them, but because we didn't protect them. Estate planning isn't just paperwork, it's survival, it's power, and it's how we make sure that our children inherit more than just debt. Our special guest this morning joins us to talk about just that, estate planning, particularly with African Americans. Welcome, Constance Carter. I thought she was here. There she is.
I am here.
All right. There she is.
Good morning.
How are you?
We are well. We're
Beautiful.
glad to have you.
Thank you for having
Yes.
me.
Come on into the ecosystem.
Okay,
Come
I'm
into
here.
the ecosystem. So you bring to us this morning what I think is a very, very important topic. More than 70% of Black Americans, Constance, as you know, don't have a will or trust. Why is that such a crisis, and what does it mean for generational wealth in our community?
It is a crisis because you got to think about it. We are already behind the 8 ball when it comes to building wealth. We have been shut out of wealth building opportunities for years, since the inception of being in this country. You think about historically when you have redlining and predatory lending, and we just didn't have the opportunity because, as you may know, 90% of wealth in this country is passed intergenerationally and 80% is through real estate. And as we're trying to get a piece of the pie inside real estate and wealth building, one of the things that is true is that Black people are not planning to be able to pass the wealth like other people. For example, when I moved into an affluent neighborhood, it was a white neighborhood. And I was trying to see who was all in the neighborhood. I was looking in there to see who my neighbors were. Everybody was white except for us. We was only Black, was the youngest. And when I looked, I couldn't find who was living there because everybody had their homes in living trust. And then I moved to Maryland a couple of years ago, the same thing, affluent neighborhood, all Black though. These people were even richer. Nobody had their homes in living trust. Everybody was exposed. And so when we're trying to build wealth, it's important that we also are able to keep it and then pass it intergenerationally to our children. That's why we work so hard. And we're just not doing that as we need to be.
What's the basic question? What's the difference between a living trust or a will?
Oh, that is so good. So a lot of us, we know about wills. A will is just instructions. It just tells you who gets what, right? So if you have a will and you have property in a will, and say you give it to your children want to maybe sell it and they want to start investing and doing other things, well, it'll have to go to probate court. And probate is lengthy and it's time consuming and it's also expensive. And it can be contested. There's a saying that a will be contested. And like you could pass something to your kids, and somebody, your cousin from Mississippi, or they'd be like, hey, she said I could have this property. I'm entitled to it too. Even though it'll come out that she's not entitled to it, they're gonna have to go through the process. When you have trust, it is what it is. These are the instructions, these are the directives. This is your legally binding instrument to pass property generationally. So it's very, very different.
So many people think that estate planning is only for the wealthy. And you talked about the affluent neighborhood in Maryland, but how do you address that misconception when even modest homes or savings can be lost without a plan?
Oh my God, that is the biggest thing. And I think because they're so expensive, they can be expensive. They're like, anywhere between $1,500 and $3,000 they can be, but it is worth the protection. I mean, I have them, I give them, I make sure that everybody in my family has them. If you have one property, it's worth it, because let me just tell you, I'm a real estate broker. I built the largest Black-owned real estate firm in California. I've had thousands of customers, and my goal is to really help Black people, right? I'm very clear about my mission and my goal to help us not only build wealth, but keep wealth. But so many times I've seen where, we get somebody die, kids get it. And these is grown people, like my mom and them age. They fighting. Mama said I could have it, mama, and nobody set up instructions or directives. And so we don't know what mama's wishes were because mama didn't plan. And now the kids is hating each other. They fighting, because they don't know what to do. And everybody, my mama always said, there's two things that folks get to acting funny, and that's death and money. People will act funny when it comes to death and money, and you just don't know how people will respond. But you don't want to leave it up to that. You don't want your kids to hate each other.
So for a new family that's starting out, new family married, and they're starting, to build their life together. Like, what are the first three things they should do? We see a lot of GoFundMe accounts when people die, and it's like, should you be having a GoFundMe account to, bury your loved one? Things happen, but what are the first three things a new family should do when you talk about living trust, will, life insurance policies, and things like that?
Those three things right there. You said it. The first thing, no, seriously, the first thing is get a life insurance policy. It is a sin before God for you to be having chicken. Well, we don't do chicken dinners no more, right? We don't do barbecues. We don't do carb. We got GoFundMe for those. But
there you go.
It's not a replacement for a life insurance policy, and you can get one for $25, right? Just to bury you. But even more important than that, you need to have something to set up for your children. The Bible says that a good man leaves an inheritance for his children and his children's children. And I just think it's a sin before God if you living your best life, and you don't have anything set up for your kids. So that's number one, right? Mm-hmm. And then the number two is, do some type of will. Again, a will are instructions. They're instructions. Now, remember, when you think about wills and trusts, and when you mentioned having a lot of money, but you think about these celebrities that their children and their family members were fighting for years. James Brown, 13 years before they settled his estate. You had John Singleton. When he created his trust, when he had one child, he ended up dying with 6, and they was fighting, right? Oh, wow. You have Prince's people fighting over his estate. Aretha Franklin had a will that was written by hand, because you can write it anyway, right? Your instructions are your instructions. You have to be, but her will was scribbled on some notes in her couch, but that wasn't enough. So even at that level, we're just not planning like we should. But even on a very, very basic level, it's not a rich man's game. If you have property, any amount of property, you need to have some type of planning so that you could pass it.
And doesn't that apply to even if you don't have property? And you mentioned that, so I'm gonna make it twofold. Doesn't it apply even if you don't have a lot of money, you don't have property? And secondly, you mentioned Aretha Franklin scribbled it on a notepad or whatever and put it in a couch. What should folks do? Should it be a notary involved? What's the process of that?
Okay. So here's the thing. Living trusts are expensive. So when I moved here to Maryland and I bought another property, I was telling people, I was on podcast and I was saying, listen, you don't have to pay $3,000. You could just go to Chat GPT and create your own living trust, blah, 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 right? Because what I was doing is I had a living trust I paid thousands of dollars for, and I was really basically copying what my attorney had put into place. I was copying it, and I was using Chat GPT, and I was using certain prompts, and I had, did my medical directives and all of that stuff. So like you said, living trust is not just for houses, it's for your medical, your power of attorney, for your bank accounts, for all of those things. So I said, you know what? Let me sit down and let me do an ebook so that I can show people how to do it so that they don't have to pay. Because Black folks, one thing you're gonna know is we don't a lot of times spend money on the things that are important, that are wildly important until maybe it's too late. So, a lot of us don't have $1,500, even if we do have a house, or $3,000 to spend on an attorney to write up their living trust. So I created an ebook, literally, where it's $25. And you just use these prompts. And what I have in here is I have a basic ironclad living trust that shows you how to get it recorded, all of those things. So the notary that you need, how to record it, what all the instructions per state, the guidelines, any special verbiage that you need to have in there per state, everything is already in there. So then you don't have to. And of course, an attorney's gonna be like, you don't want to do that. You want to come to me and pay $3,000. But you could take this to an attorney and say, hey, look over this. And I've had people to do that, and it sold thousands of copies. And I mean, it could stand up against any living trust for that an attorney will write up, because really all they're doing, they pretty much have a template and they ask you specific questions. And it's the same thing that you could do with my ebook. So I try to make it as simple as possible. I see things as like problems that Black people have, and I just try to find solutions. And so that was a solution, and I think it's very beneficial, and it answers that question.
Yeah. Constance, one of our viewers, Mike V, says that we have a growing number of folks in our community who are childless and deep into their 50s. What should those folks be doing with their means, and who should get it? So in other words, somebody doesn't have any heirs.
That's
a
good
question. Mm-hmm.
No, that is a good question. Somebody asked it. I was speaking at the All Black National Convention the other day, a couple weeks ago. Somebody asked that question, and luckily it was somebody more astute than I was on the panel, because I was thinking, live your best life, right? This is what I was thinking. But somebody said they were better than me. What they did say is you really want to kind of have something set aside for when you're in your elder years, so that you can live a great life. You may not want to pass it. You may not have anybody to pass it to. And if you don't have anybody to pass it to, and you really want to pass something to somebody, my name is Constance Carter. You can follow me everywhere at I am Constance Carter, and you can go ahead and put me on your will or your trust if you absolutely don't have anybody. But I think you should just really prepare for your later years, and just to make sure that your life is in accordance with your standards, and just make sure that you that. And if there's a charity or an organization that you're fond of that you want to contribute to, that's also something that you can do.
Well, just to show you how important this conversation is, Pietro Jose Tembe is watching from Mozambique. So this is a very important conversation.
Right.
So
if you could, Ray, I have a quick question. Like, you have all of these different companies out here. What companies do you recommend outside of yours, of course, that people should be, that are people can lean towards to get good sound advice?
What type of advice?
For like life insurance policies, living wills, things like that.
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know, because there's so many different people in different places. I don't know. I couldn't even tell you, because I don't do insurance, but I work with people who do, and it just depends on the state that you're in. It depends on what your needs are. I will say, in terms of like insurance, there's different things that you can do with insurance that I think that's also important, which is probably another conversation. But there's insurance that can really help you to really build wealth and increase your money, your savings. You can create your own bank. You could take your money out the bank, and you can increase your own wealth through life insurance. And that's a really important question I think that we need to be having too, because the banks only really give us 0.23% interest. And if you put it into a life insurance policy that generates compound interest, you can make, say you have $10,000, you put it in a life insurance policy in 5 years, 10 years, you're going to have, $1,500 as opposed to putting in the bank where you're going to have $100. It's a very big difference. And so, Einstein said compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. Those who know about it earn from it, and those who don't pay it. And most of us are paying it in our credit cards and in the daily things that we do. And the wealthy people, they're using it to actually earn money from. And so those are some things that you can do, like with life insurance, that I do definitely as well. I take my money's in the bank for bills, right? But for savings, I wouldn't put my savings in the bank.
Interesting. Nice. And I think, Constance, what you just said, I really take a personal thing to it, because you're 100% right. Just a quick example from a personal point of view, like a year ago, I just decided, let me just put $500 in this CD, right? Just to test it. And my life insurance policy, now I'm over 50, so it's going to be a little bit different, right? Most of us have pre-existing conditions. Well, my life insurance, the earnings from that is like 25 times that of that CD that I had. So you're 100% right. If I needed it, and we don't, I'm sure you wouldn't recommend anybody going and taking money out of their life insurance unless it's absolutely a dire thing, like you got to live or die or whatever. But if I was to go in there today, I'd be pretty okay. Yeah. Right.
I mean, you can borrow money from yourself if you do it like that. If you wanted to, I wouldn't recommend you taking it out and spending it on a liability. But if you have something else, maybe you want to invest in, if you have some property or a business, and then you're going to get an ROI, take the money out and then put the money back in.
Right. Yeah. And so, Candace, there are so many, obviously we know the cultural barriers that we have, like mistrust of the legal system and the taboos around talking about death in our community. I think you touched on that earlier, has kept many from planning, but we have to start breaking that cycle. When do you begin? How do you talk to somebody to help them see that cycle needs to be broken?
As early as possible. Let me tell you when I learned about living trust. I had just sold this couple a house. They were 38. And about 8 months later, and it was only in the husband's name. So the wife, she had just had a baby. She was stay-at-home mom. He was going to work, and because he was the only one working, and he got in an accident, he died. And so she came back to us and she wanted to sell her house. Well, California, although it is a community property state, she's entitled to have. Their children are also entitled to a portion of the husband's half. So then it had to go to probate, and the judge said it wasn't in the court's best interest for her to sell it. So her hands were tied. She could not sell it. She couldn't do anything. And had she had a living trust, she would have been able to sell it. Had they had their home in a living trust. That's when I first found out about that, right? So this is a 38-year-old couple, who expects to die. They just bought their first home, and now, they're gone. And they had to go through that. And so, as soon as you start, accumulating anything, if you're in your first job and they have a 401k, put money aside in that 401k. Like, all of those things are very important. But then when you talk about like death, I remember I was riding in the car with my dad, and I was like, dang, Dad, that's such a blessing. Your mom is 97 years old. Dang, when I'm 90, you're not going to be around. He was like, what you mean? I'm like, Dad, you're like 30 years older than me. Your mama's only 15 years older than you. Like, you're not going to be around when I'm 70, right? You probably not. But to the point, Black people don't like to talk about death like that, right? At all. And so it is hard to have those conversations because we just are not open, but we just have to make it. I mean, it's a natural progression of life. It's happen at some point, and we need to have those critical conversations. Because here's another thing: you have people who when they die, they don't have anything set up. You have, and I've seen this so many times, where they can't get in a bank account because they don't have no beneficiaries. Now they're scrambling. They can't pay for anything. They don't know where the insurance policies are. So we're not having any of these conversations. And now your loved one is not only struggling with you dealing with their death, but now they got to try to figure out all these other things too. How do I, what's mama's her bank account information? Where does she have life insurance? Like, how are we gonna pay for this? How are we gonna deal with this? And so we have to have these conversations.
Yeah, such great information you're providing. Tell us about your firm, what you do. And your firm seems to have a lot of Black women in it. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, so I am the CEO and broker of Catalyst Real Estate Professionals, and I built the largest Black-owned real estate firm in California. As I moved to Maryland a couple of years ago, I kind of was trying to decide what I went through a divorce, and I was trying to decide on what I wanted to do with this iteration of my life. I'm on the other side of 40s, almost 50, and I was like, what do I really want to do? When you talk about Black women, I decided my passion project right now is really coaching Black women. And so I've created this group called the Net 7 Collective, which is a group of women all over the country and some international, where I coach Black women to increase their net worth to 7 figures. Because I know what it is that we need. There's an African proverb that says, when you teach a man, you teach an individual. And this is no diss to men, but when you teach a woman, you teach a nation. And so I did a TED Talk a few years ago, and it was about closing the wealth gap. It's called Google that shit, by the way. And but this is, I feel, is my contribution to closing the wealth gap is through Black women. I mean, we need each other to survive. We need each other to be able to get to the other side, because there is this place, and there's an intentional effort to destroy Black people. I truly believe that. And I heard a little bit about what you guys were talking about, and I believe that it's intentional. And so the only way we're going to make it to the other side is if we work together as a community, and we each one teach one. And Black women, you give us something, we're going to multiply it. You give us cook it, food, we're going to cook the meal. You give us, a house, we're going to make a home. You give us a seed, we're going to make a baby. Like, that's what we do as Black women. And so that's who I work with. And so we just started the Net 7 Nation, which are local chapters all over the country and internationally. So we have over 20 countries represented that we just want to just bring Black people together and just close this gap and just make money and live life, have a good time, but just create something for our families. So
can you give us the website so we can learn more?
Yes. So on my website, ConstanceCarter.com, I have all of the information for all my businesses, my real estate business, Net 7 Collective, Net 7 Nation. I own a mortgage company. I own a cannabis dispensary. That's not on the website though. That's just another investment. But those are just things that I do that I try to share with other people on how to grow your money and not blow your money. So
where's your cannabis? Is that in LA?
It's in Stockton. It's in Stockton, California.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Michelle Madison wants to know, are you related to former Senator Jill P. Carter?
I'm not. Carter is my married name.
Okay. She's definitely not. Last thing for me, and this has been a great educational experience, Constance Carter. So we thank you so much. If we fail the plan now, and I referenced earlier Roland Martin speaking about defunding Black America, but if we fail to plan now, are we looking at Black household wealth hitting 0 in our lifetime?
That was a Forbes article that said in 2053 that we were on the trajectory if we don't make any changes. And but I don't believe that. Let me tell you, I'm not gonna curse here because I curse and I love it. But this is what I say: they did effed around and they didn't gave us the internet. They gave us a great equalizer. They gave us the internet, AI, and we have each other. And so I think that now there's a great awakening amongst Black people. I really do. So the 300,000 women that have lost their jobs, the intentional effort of the Trump administration to destroy Black households, I think it's starting to bring people away. It's starting to make us awake, because there's no security blanket. There's never been a security blanket. We've been asleep for the last 50 years, thinking that they cared about us. I'm not gonna curse. Thinking that they cared about us, and they don't. They don't give a dang about Black people, and nobody is coming to save us. We got to be the ones, and I think that we're starting to realize that. And the only way we can do it, y'all, is together. And so that's what it is. So that's what we have to do.
And speaking of together, before we let you go, we hear you're going to be at the Congressional Black Caucus Conference this year.
I mean, I'll be there. I'll be in the building. I ain't gonna be doing it. But are you gonna be out there?
We will be there. We will have a booth. Black Press USA will have a booth. So be sure to stop by so we can further this conversation.
For sure. I'll definitely be there.
And look for blackpressusa.com. Later today, there will be an article about your appearance this morning.
All right, perfect. I appreciate the invitation.
With all that great information too, Constance.
Y'all keep doing the great work. Y'all keep doing the great work. This is
Thank
great
you.
conversation. So just let me
Yes.
know anytime you want me to come in here. I am available.
You are a part of the village.
I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Constance Carter, folks. It was some wow. That was really good, Neo.
Yeah, I mean that's we need it all. This is part of the resistance: education, growth, learning. There's so much more we can do outside of the Trump orbit. So many conversations we can have to make our lives better, and that conversation was one of them. And speaking of more conversations, let's head to Charlotte, North Carolina, where they're holding a primary election today, Stacey. So what's on the ballot? Candidates for mayor and city council. Charlotte, North Carolina does have a Black mayor. Her name is Viola Lyles. She currently serves as the 59th mayor. She's been in office since 2017. I'm not telling you who to vote for, but as we talk about building our ecosystem and resisting this Trump administration, we need to have people on local and state levels doing the damn thing. So if you're in Charlotte, North Carolina, your polls are now open, and they are open until 7:30 p.m. And you have to have a photo ID. I mean, all states are different, so you have to have your photo ID. So make sure you bring that with you. And at the end of the day, at least 46 states have elections this year with more than 100,000 open seats on the ballot. So we started the top of the show talking about what can we do? We can start by voting. What can we do? Start by voting on local and state elections so that we can have a resistance when we look at this Trump plan.
Has any of the, especially the Democratic National Committee or anybody like that, have they ever reached out to you and said, come work for us? Because you talk a lot about the state and the importance of it, and you like, there's no excuse.
Yeah, I used to run political campaigns here in California for Black candidates, particular. I used to work for Rock the Vote with a special emphasis on Black voters and the Black church. So yeah, I have. But I've always worked in a nonpartisan fashion. That's why I'm able to talk to Republicans, and I don't have a problem with talking to them because it's not my choice or decision to tell you how to vote, but just to let you know that your vote is important.
Sounds like League of Women's Voters thing. They don't tell people how to vote, but they do just like what you just said.
So does the NAACP. They're nonpartisan. They're a 501c3. They can't tell you who to vote for, but they can give you all the reasons why you should vote. And I think if they give you the reasons why, we're intelligent enough to make informed decisions. So vote. 100,000 seats are on the ballot. Okay, we've already got through half the year. We still got a little more to go. We know midterms are next year. So if you have family members, tell them, register, vote. And this is why voting matters, because health insurance premiums are going up next year, Stacey. For people who buy their insurance on healthcare.gov or the state-based marketplaces, and this is according to a recent analysis, the average person who buys Affordable Care Act, affectionately known as Obamacare insurance, will be paying 75% more for their premium. And this is according to a nonpartisan health policy research group. And so maybe so when we say why we need to respond, it's not just racial profiling. Now, a liberty that the first Black president made affordable to us, they're trying to erase that too.
Yeah, it's interesting. And what they will do and what they are doing is blaming the system itself, Obamacare itself, which is crazy that to allow you to if you allow yourself to believe that this somehow was the fault of Obama and his system, his healthcare legislation, then you have drank all of the Kool-Aid and went back for seconds, because they have constantly, ever since they called it, and let's make it clear, Obama didn't name it Obamacare.
Right.
It was the Affordable Care Act, and it, other people gave it the name Obamacare because he was behind it. And 15 years ago, it was just the cheapest thing. It was, I had an employer who had good health insurance, but Obamacare's were even better. And it kept being that way until 2016, when Trump first took office. And he immediately attacked it and wanted to get rid of it simply because it had Obama's name on it in most circles. Simply because of that.
Yeah.
And they've been doing everything they can to gut it. And now they have totally destroyed it, or the purpose of it.
Yeah. The Republicans called it Obamacare, thinking they make it negative, but that's why I said affectionately known as Obamacare, because what they did for evil, God made for good. We love us some Obamacare. Okay. It's a positive thing. They meant for negative, but we say, that's something that he did for us, and they can't take that away. We took their word, we co-opted their word. Oh, we like Obamacare, we'll take that. But yeah, these are the effects of the Trump Klan administration that directly impact working class families, and the underserved. And so, the question is, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? So that's why I started top of the show. I'm not even worried about Trump and them no more. It's like, what are we going to do about it?
Wait, you said Trump and them, and I guess said mom and them. Y'all really bringing out the black in all of us.
The aunties is talking this morning.
I see.
In more news, speaking of black women, former Vice President Kamala Harris will no longer receive special protection from the Los Angeles Police Department. Now, that's different from the CHP, California Highway Patrol, which, we'll see how long that lasts. But the LAPD said, no, we're pulling it. Now, the protection was temporarily arranged by Mayor Karen Bass, but the decision drew heavy criticism from the public, including the board of the Los Angeles Police Protective League. And this is a stiff quote that they said. They said, pulling police officers from protecting everyday Angelenos to protect a failed presidential candidate who also happens to be a multimillionaire with multiple homes and who can easily afford to pay for her own security is nuts. Now, that's what the board of police said.
Yeah, I think the statement is so tacky. It's racism.
It was unnecessary.
In that statement, very unnecessary. And I say all that to say it's true. The statement is true, and that she can afford her own security, right? And to call her a failed candidate, you know what? That's all about attacking a black woman. So that's all. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was unnecessary. Totally unnecessary. They could have kept that statement amongst themselves, but nevertheless they did it. I'm sure that hopefully her book company will foot the bill as she goes across the country to sell her bill. To sell her book.
As you said, she can. Her and Doug can afford their own security, but to basically take a spit on someone who served as vice president of the United States, and care more about law enforcement than the guy that you probably serve.
Right.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. And, to say a failed candidate, before she was a failed candidate, she was the vice president of the United States. She was a California senator. She was the attorney general for California. So the only thing that you could walk away with to say about her was she was a failed candidate. Come on. She was more of a winning candidate than she was a failed one. She won more than she lost. And
let's face it. And no candidate in history had to come in with 2 months runway.
There you go.
In a presidential election with only two months. Come on.
Right. Speaking of presidents, we have more Obama news because we care for Obama. Now, congratulations goes out to the former president and Kendrick Lamar. Obama
Oh,
won his third Emmy for narrating Netflix's Our Oceans, and Kendrick Lamar won his second Emmy that he picked up for outstanding music direction for his halftime performance at the Super Bowl. And this was at the 2025 Creative Arts Emmy Awards. So, they have different awards for Emmys. Everybody thinks it's just that one big night, but there's several series of Emmy Awards that go out. So congratulations to Kendrick Lamar and former President Barack Obama. See, we're still thriving. We're still thriving in a white man's America. Always have, always will.
Listen, come together, and I say that, and the Michael Jackson version of "Come Together."
Okay, right now. And then in more congratulatory news, NBA. Let's talk about the NBA. LeBron James and Chris Paul made history by becoming the first active NBA players to be inducted into the NBA Hall of Fame as part of the 2025 class for their participation in the 2008 U.S. Olympics Redeem Team.
I totally disagree with this. Totally disagree with this. Their time is coming, and they should have allowed that time to. It's retired. Melo is retired. He was inducted. Others are retired. They're inducted. This idea of, to me, it cheapens it. And yes, does Chris Paul and LeBron James, will they have they had a career worthy of Hall of Fame? No doubt. But this is not their time, and it stepped on the others' time. I don't agree with this, Neo.
Oh, well, I mean, I don't have a problem with it.
I'm not congratulating them.
Congratulations to them and Carmelo Anthony. I thought that seeing his son put the jacket on him was just such a nice, touching moment. I love Carmelo Anthony and his son, Cayenne. They just have such a great dynamic. His speech was beautiful. He acknowledged his kids. And congratulations to all the NBA Hall of Famers.
Carmelo will be he will go down to me as one of the all-time great New York Knicks, and good for him. He deserves it. There was a debate about whether they should retire his jersey. I know Walt Clyde Frazier, perhaps the greatest Knick of all time, says that no, they shouldn't retire his jersey number at Madison Square Garden. I disagree with Clyde. Melo's number 7 should go up in the rafters, and it should go up this season. Because he just got inducted, and that usually is what is required when you're talking about retiring folks' numbers. But this idea of active players getting inducted is absolutely absurd. The NBA continues to lower the bar, in my opinion. So anyway.
Well, Dr. Joni says, isn't the whole idea of Hall of Fame set up for people who had excellent careers and get their flowers later?
Exactly.
But Howard Harris says, give them their flowers while they're here. You never know when your time is up. I mean, hey, Michelle.
Celebrate your. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No,
Celebrate
Michelle.
We both trying to give away. I'm just going to say, so in his view, you should celebrate your 100th anniversary while you're on your 10th. Give me a break.
Michelle Madison said, I was really touched by Carmelo Anthony. And then Orange G said, the Knicks should retire their franchise, but I do need them around for comic relief.
Of course he would say that. And somebody said earlier that when we were talking about the life insurance and the trust, somebody said Orange G has all his paperwork with his money under his mattress.
That is hilarious. That's hilarious, but probably true.
Probably true. Grizz calling me a grumpy old man.
Oh wow, Greer.
Anyway,
but those are your headlines for today.
I'm the grumpy old man, and today Miel is the Reverend, according to
I mean, I went to church this Sunday.
Bag on it.
Look, I'd rather be
you rather be the Reverend than the grumpy old woman, right?
No, I was saying I'd rather be the Reverend than the harlot, but Rahab Rahab was a harlot, and I respect her. So hey,
Wait,
sometimes
wait a minute.
Rahab was a harlot, and look what she did. She was
Yeah.
honored by God. So it takes a village. It goes back. It takes the harlot, it takes the reverend, and we all got a little bit of all of it in us.
She had to come up with anyway, she does it again, folks. She does it again. So let's get some Black history facts. On this date in 1968, speaking of sports, on this date in 68, legendary tennis player Arthur Ashe became the first African-American man to win the U.S. Open Tennis Championship. Arthur Ashe set many firsts on the competitive courts of tennis, including being the first African-American to win the Singles Cup at Wimbledon on July 5th, 1975. He was born in Richmond, Virginia on July 10th, 1943. He died on February 6, 1993 in New York City at the age of 49. He achieved the ranking of #1 in the world among his peers and had a singles career record of 818 wins and just 260 losses. And he won 51 titles, which included wins in the Australian Open, Wimbledon, the US Open. He is believed to have become HIV positive from a blood transfusion during heart surgery. He worked to educate people about AIDS after publicly disclosing his illness and died of AIDS-related pneumonia. Arthur Ashe, perhaps the greatest male tennis player ever.
Yes, and the U.S. Open is still going on, so you guys, everybody's pulling up, so we should too. And since we were talking about the Emmys earlier, let's highlight on this date in 1979, Robert Gilliam won an Emmy for Best Actor in a Comedy Series for his work in Soap. Yes. And he would later win Outstanding Lead Actor in a Comedy Series for Benson, which was a character from Soap, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so, today we honor Emmy winner Robert Gilliam.
Soap was absolutely hilarious, and Benson, his character really was he was the best character in that, and of course he had the spinoff, like you said, of Benson. But a lot of people loved him in the movie with Morgan Freeman, the Principal Joe Clark movie. What's it? Lean on Me.
Lean on Me.
Yeah.
Fairy side.
yes. Lean on. He was absolutely outstanding. What an outstanding actor.
Yeah.
He was great. He was great.
Yeah. And Benson and Soap are streaming on Tubi for free. So if you want to go check them out, you can go stream it.
Oh, I didn't know that. So now I know. Great. And by the way, RNG says, yes, he does have all those papers under his mattress, but he has rat traps to protect it. So nobody's reaching under his mattress. Our Black-owned newspaper of the day is the Amsterdam News. The New York Amsterdam News was started more than a century ago with a $10 investment. It has gone on to become one of the most important Black newspapers in the country, and today it remains one of the most influential Black-owned and operated media businesses in the nation, if not the entire world. While the Amsterdam News is the, quote, new Black view, it remains keenly aware and respectful of the fact that it serves an increasingly multiracial and multi-ethnic community in New York and beyond. Today, the Amsterdam News remains the voice of one of the largest and most influential Black communities in the country and the world, Harlem.
Love it. And be sure to keep up with Black Press USA today. Stacey mentioned that he is going to write a story about Living Trust. And also the Congressional Black Caucus is having a press conference today about the redistricting that's happening across the country. And Black Press USA is there. So there'll be a story up later about that as well. So for the latest in Black news, head over to blackpressusa.com.
All right. We will see you guys again tomorrow. Thanks for joining Let It Be Known.